Imagine standing at the base of two mountains. One is Japan, the other is Korea. You're holding a guidebook for each. Both look beautiful, fascinating, and rich in culture. But there's one big question on your mind. Which mountain is harder to climb? Which language, Japanese or Korean, is more difficult to master? That's the question we'll explore in this video. We'll take a close look at the major parts of each language. Things like the writing system, grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, and how these languages are used in real life. Along the way, we'll compare them side by side in simple English. You don't have to be a linguist. You just need curiosity and an open mind. Whether you're thinking about learning one of these languages, planning a trip, or just curious, this video is your guide. So let's begin this journey into Japanese and Korean and see which language is harder to master. Now let's get started. Japanese and Korean are both East Asian languages, but they are not from the same language family. In fact, they are so different that most experts believe they developed separately. Yet, they share some similarities in structure and cultural use. That makes them feel alike in some ways, but very different in others. Japanese is spoken by over 120 million people, mainly in Japan. Korean is spoken by about 80 million people, mostly in South Korea and North Korea. Both languages are important in business, entertainment, and global culture. And both are seen as hard languages for English speakers to learn. Now let's look at the writing systems. One of the first things people notice about Japanese is that it uses 3 different scripts. These are called hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Hiragana is a set of simple characters used for basic grammar and native Japanese words. Katakana is mainly used for foreign words and sound effects. Kanji are borrowed from Chinese and are used to express full meanings. A regular Japanese sentence often uses a mix of all 3 scripts. To become fluent in Japanese reading and writing, you need to learn over 2,000 kanji characters, plus the entire hiragana and katakana systems. That's a big challenge for anyone. Even Japanese children spend years learning to read and write fluently. Korean, by contrast, uses just one script. It's called Hangul. Hangul was created in the 1400s by King Sejong of Korea. His goal was to make reading and writing simple and available to all people. And he succeeded. Hangul has only 14 basic consonants and 10 vowels. These combine to form blocks that look like syllables. Once you learn the letters, you can read most Korean words with ease. Some people say you can learn to read Hangul in a single day. So in terms of writing, Korean is far simpler and more beginner-friendly than Japanese. Now let's move on to grammar. Both Japanese and Korean have sentence structures that are different from English. In both languages, the verb usually comes at the end of the sentence. This is called subject-object-verb order. For example, in English we say, I eat rice. But in both Korean and Japanese, it would be closer to I rice eat. Both languages also use something called particles. These are small words or sounds added to show what role each part of the sentence plays. In Japanese, particles like wa, and ni are used. In Korean, particles like noon, yul, and rule are common. Another part of grammar is verb conjugation. In both languages, verbs change form depending on tense and level of politeness. But there's a difference. Korean verbs tend to follow more regular patterns, which makes them a little easier to learn. Japanese verbs have more exceptions and special cases, which can slow down progress. So while both languages have challenging grammar for English speakers, Korean may feel a little more logical and consistent once you get the hang of it. Next, let's look at pronunciation. Japanese has relatively few sounds. Most of the sounds in Japanese are soft and simple, and many of them also exist in English. Each syllable is pronounced clearly and evenly. There are no tones and very few consonant clusters. Japanese is spoken in a smooth, steady rhythm. Once you learn the syllables, pronunciation becomes manageable. Korean pronunciation, on the other hand, is a bit more complex. It includes a wider variety of consonants and vowels. Some of these sounds don't exist in English. For example, Korean has tense consonants, which are pronounced with extra force. It also has final consonants at the end of syllables, which can be hard to hear and pronounce correctly. Another challenge in Korean is sound change. Depending on the words around them, certain letters may change pronunciation. This can make it hard to guess how a word is pronounced just by reading it. Because of these differences, most learners find that Japanese is easier to pronounce correctly, especially in the early stages. Now let's talk about vocabulary. Japanese and Korean both have a lot of native words and words borrowed from Chinese. However, Japanese words often have multiple readings depending on how they're written in kanji. That means one character might be read differently in different words. For example, a kanji that means learning might be pronounced one way in one word and a completely different way in another. This can make Japanese vocabulary harder to memorize. Korean vocabulary can also be complex, but it has one advantage. All words are written using the Hangul alphabet. That makes it easier to pronounce and remember new words once you know the letters. Also, Korean includes many borrowed words from English and other languages, especially in modern topics like technology or pop culture. This means learners may recognize some Korean words more easily than Japanese ones. So when it comes to vocabulary, Korean might be easier to learn for English speakers, at least in the beginning. Let's move on to politeness and formality. Both Japanese and Korean cultures put a strong focus on respect, and their languages reflect that. Depending on who you're talking to, your friend, your boss, or a stranger, you must use different levels of formality. In Japanese, there are three main levels. There's the casual form, which you use with friends or people younger than you. Then there's the polite form, which you use in most normal situations. And finally, there are honorific and humble forms, which are used in business or when showing deep respect. Korean also has multiple levels of speech. In fact, some people say Korean has more levels than Japanese. However, in daily conversation, most people use two or three main styles: casual, polite, and formal. The rules about who you speak politely to are strict in Korea, especially when it comes to age and status. Learning how to use politeness correctly takes time in both languages. But Japanese might feel a bit more consistent, while Korean can feel stricter about who uses what and when. Now let's talk about how long it takes to learn these languages. According to the U.S. Foreign Service Institute, both Japanese and Korean are in the hardest category for English speakers. They estimate it takes about 2,200 hours of study to reach fluency in either one. That's around 5 to 6 years of consistent practice. However, in real life, many people find that they can read and write Korean faster, thanks to the simple Hangul script. But on the other hand, Japanese might be easier to pronounce clearly, even if reading and writing are harder. Both languages require a lot of dedication and patience. There is no shortcut, but with the right motivation, anyone can make progress. Now let's look at how these languages are used in the world today. Japanese is used almost entirely in Japan. If you learn Japanese, you'll be able to enjoy Japanese culture more deeply, things like anime, traditional music, literature, and food. You can also connect with people in Japan on a deeper level, especially if you travel or work there. Korean is used in both South Korea and North Korea. South Korea, in particular, has become a global cultural leader through music, films, TV dramas, and fashion. Learning Korean opens the door to enjoying K-pop, Korean movies, and more. It also helps if you plan to travel, work, or study in Korea. In recent years, Korean has gained popularity all around the world. It's now taught in many schools and universities. That means more chances to practice and more resources for learners. So if you want more opportunities to use the language in global pop culture and with a growing community of learners, Korean may offer more doors. Now, let's bring everything together. We've looked at writing systems, grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, levels of politeness, learning time, and real-world use. So which one is harder to master? The answer depends on what kind of learner you are. If you're someone who struggles with writing, Korean is the better choice. The Hangul alphabet is simple, logical, and quick to learn. Japanese writing takes years to master. If you're worried about pronunciation, Japanese may feel easier. The sounds are fewer and simpler, and most words are spoken as they're written. If grammar is your challenge, Korean may feel more regular. But both languages require a shift in how you think about sentences. If you want to understand anime, tea ceremony, or Japanese traditions, learning Japanese connects you deeply with that world. If you love Korean pop culture, dramas, or history, learning Korean will take you further. In short, Korean is probably the easier language to start with. It gets you reading and writing faster, and it may feel more accessible in the modern world. But both Japanese and Korean are hard languages, and both offer deep rewards if you commit to them. The harder language is the one you don't enjoy, so choose the one you love more. That passion will carry you through the difficult parts. So what do you think? Which one would you choose, Japanese or Korean? Let us know in the comments below. And if this video helped you understand the differences, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for more cultural insights. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep learning, stay respectful, and enjoy the journey.